You're listening to Psych to Parent, where we turn brain science into tiny wins at home. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, mom of two, and endurance athlete. I love a good data set and a diagnostic manual. But I also forget permission slips, overthink IEP emails, and occasionally replay the moment I snapped at my kids in the car. In other words, I'm in the messy middle with you, not above it. This show is for parents of big feeling, big thinking kids who are tired of vague advice and Pinterest perfect behavior charts. Each episode, I'll pull back the curtain on what I see in real evaluations, school meetings, my private practice, and my own kitchen, and translate the research into simple scripts, tiny routines, and nervous system friendly tweaks you can actually use. Think of it as a nervous system rehab meets mindset coaching meets a smart, slightly spicy, non-judgy friend in your earbuds. We'll take one real life challenge at a time and shrink it down into 1 or 2 tiny wins you can start this week. No perfection, no 47-step sticker systems, just small, repeatable shifts that add up over time. Quick legal-ish note in plain English. This podcast is for education and support. It's not therapy, it does not create a clinical relationship, and it's not a substitute for personalized medical or mental health advice. If you're worried about your child's safety or mental health, or your own, please reach out to a trusted professional. Okay, deep breath, drop your shoulders. You're not behind and you're not alone. Let's get psyched to parent. You know that moment when you pick your kid up from school or camp or practice, or you do the most normal parent thing in the world? Your kid gets in the car and you say, "Hey babe, how was your day?" And then the door closes just a little too hard. Not fully slammed, maybe, but enough that your nervous system as a parent notices. Then there's that big, aggressive seatbelt click, the one that sounds like a punctuation mark, most likely an exclamation point. And your kid gives you that dead face stare. Not sad, not mad exactly, just offline. And they say, "Fine." Now, as a parent, you are immediately decoding this like you work for the FBI. Like, fine, fine, like actually fine like bad fine like I don't want to talk about it, fine like something happened and I need you to guess, but also don't ask me. And meanwhile, you are not exactly floating through life with a lavender eye pillow on your face. You're thinking about that work deadline you have at 5 o'clock tonight. You are mentally calculating what you can make for dinner before the extracurricular activities start and hoping everyone will eat it. You're hoping the laundry got switched from the washer to the dryer because somebody's uniform, costume, jersey, or a very specific pair of socks needs to be ready. So there you are in the car, holding a 5 p.m. deadline, dinner math, laundry stress, and your child's mysterious "fine." And then maybe you ask one more teeny tiny question. "What did you do today, babe?" And suddenly your kid snaps. "I said I was fine." And you're sitting there thinking, wow, I was so excited to see you too. This, my friends, is the after-school handoff. And it does not happen in a quiet therapy room. It happens in a car with deadlines, laundry, sibling noise, water bottles rolling around on the floor, and a child who may be completely out of words. So if that tiny word "fine" has ever made your whole body go on high alert, this episode is for you, my friend. In this episode, we're talking about why we don't want to interview the meltdown. Because sometimes your child does not need more questions first. Sometimes they need a landing strip. Welcome back to Psych to Parent, the school psychologist in the pickup line podcast for parents raising big feeling, big brained, big hearted kiddos. I'm Dr. Amy, school psychologist and parent coach. And in this episode, we're talking about what to do when your child holds it together at school or camp or any long structured day and then falls apart with you. This episode is for the parent whose child gets in the car and says, "Fine," but their tone, their face, their backpack, their seatbelt, and the entire energy field of the backseat says, "Absolutely not fine." By the end of this episode, you'll understand why the question, "How was your day?" can accidentally feel like too much, why your child's reaction is not always about you, and how to become the calm, safe, quiet space without becoming an emotional punching bag. We'll talk about what the research says about self-regulation, co-regulation, and your nervous system as a parent. We'll translate the school phrase, they were fine all day, and I'll give you scripts and tiny wins you can try this week. Here's the core idea I want you to leave with today. The meltdown is not the moment for the full investigation, the life lesson, the emotional documentary, or the repair conversation. Now, those things matter. We're just going to put them in the right order. And today's whole episode is really these 3 words: land, limit, later. Help your kid body land. Hold the limit and the boundary. Come back later when everyone's brain is back online. We regulate first, our kids and ourselves. We teach later when everyone is calm. Before we talk strategy, though, I want to name why this moment feels so loaded for parents. Let's start by being honest. When your kid melts down after school, it can feel personal. You miss them. You thought about them during the day. You packed the lunch, you signed the permission slip, remembered the water bottle, or at least remembered the water bottle after turning the car around only once. You were excited to see them. And then they get in the car and give you the absolute least: a slammed door, a grumpy fine, a snap, a glare, a complaint about the snack you brought, which, by the way, was apparently perfect yesterday. And today it's deeply offensive. And your brain goes, why do I get this version? They were nice to everyone else all day. I asked one normal question: are they mad at me? Did something happen? Am I being manipulated? Do they just feel safe with me, or am I being walked all over? That, my friends, is the messy middle. Because we can understand our kids and still have feelings about how they treat us. Both things can be true. Your child can be overloaded, and you may feel hurt. Your child may need space, and you may need not to be snapped at. Your child's fine may not even be about you, and your body may still react like it is. That's why this episode is not going to be just stay calm. I don't find that helpful. Most parents I know are sitting in the pickup line thinking, oh, I forgot I was supposed to be calm. Thank goodness somebody reminded me. Yelling usually does not help. Interrogating usually doesn't help. The lecture in the car usually becomes background noise by sentence 3. The hard part is that your nervous system is also in the car. Your body is also carrying a work deadline, the dinner plan, the laundry, the next transition, the sibling fight in the back seat, the traffic, and the fear that something is wrong and you're supposed to figure it out very quickly. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the after-school crash as a 2 nervous system moment. Not just what is wrong with my kid, it's more like what has my kid been carrying, what am I carrying, and what would help both of our bodies land before we try to solve anything. So friends, let's take this out of the my child is rude and I'm failing folder for a minute and put it in the brain and body folder. Here's the brain science in plain language. Self-regulation is developmental. That means kids are not born knowing how to pause, explain what happened, use coping strategies, inhibit the first reaction, reflect on their behavior, and repair harm while they are hungry, overstimulated, embarrassed, or exhausted. Those are skills, and they are still building them. So when your kid gets in the car and gives you that flat fine, they may not be refusing to share because they are trying to make your life harder. They may not have easy access to the story yet. They may need time to process. They may need food before words. They may need quiet before reflection. They may need their body to come down before their brain can organize the day into sentences. And this is where questions can accidentally become too much, because questions require a lot. Now add hunger, noise, a long day of self-control, social stress, masking, transitions, or sensory overload. Suddenly, the question, how was your day? It's not just a question. It becomes one more demand for your kid. So when I say, don't interview the meltdown, I don't mean never ask your kid about their life. Please ask your kid about their life. I want you to. What I do think is important to note is, timing matters. A child who is flooded may not be ready to be a reliable narrator yet. Their access to language, reflection, flexible thinking, and problem solving may be reduced, which is my nerdy way of saying this may not be the moment for a full backseat documentary. And this is where the research gives us some really helpful permission to change the order. Let me give you the quick research snapshot, because this is not just like a cute parenting trick. Self-regulation is developmental. Kids are building the ability to pause, explain, inhibit the first reaction, and use a tool when their feelings are big. Co-regulation means adults help scaffold the process with warmth, structure, and support. And for school-age kids, that support may not look like scooping them up like toddlers. It may look like lowering the demand, reducing the questions, offering quiet, and debriefing later. Now, as I said earlier, your nervous system matters too, because discipline moments ask a lot from the adult brain and the body. So this is not about ignoring behavior. It's about choosing the order. We regulate first, teach later. Or the way we're saying it today in this episode, land, limit later. The research gives us the why. The after-school reset guide gives us the what do I actually do at 3:30 when there is a backpack on the floor and a child glaring at me from the backseat version. And this is why the reset routine starts with a simple order. We drop the load, fuel and hydrate, quiet landing, connect briefly, transition to next. Not because this order is magic, because it lowers demand before we add more demand. So let's bring that back to the backseat, because this is why the word fine can feel so confusing. Let's start with the biggest reframe here. Your child's reaction after school is not always about you, friend. That slammed door, the big seatbelt click, the blank stare, that sharp fine, they say, may not be a verdict on your parenting. Sometimes it's the sound of their nervous system trying to land. This is especially true for kids who hold it together in public. They follow the schedule, they manage the noise, they sit in the group, they keep track of the rules, they tolerate the lunchroom. God bless them with those fluorescent lights and the noise. Oh man, it is intense sometimes, friends, as someone who's been a former teacher. Your kid handles disappointment, they wait their turn, they navigate friendships. And they might even be masking things like their anxiety, ADHD, sensory stress, confusion, or frustration. And then they get to you. Home may be where the accumulated load finally shows up. That may be because home feels safer. It may be because the demands have changed. It may be because the tank is empty. It may be because all of those things are true at the same time. Not because you caused it, not because they're fake at school, not because they are failing, but because the school or camp day may have required a lot of self-control. And by the time they get in the car, their tank is low. Now, school requires focus, self-control, and constant decision-making. By later in the day, their fuel source may be low, and the move from a busy structured day to home can feel overwhelming. That's the pattern we're talking about. So instead of assuming they're being rude because they just don't care, we can ask, what has their brain and body been carrying all day? Now, this doesn't excuse everything. It explains where we start. Fine at school does not mean fake at home. It means we need to understand the load. Now, this is where I want to be very clear. Understanding the load does not mean you become the family emotional trash can. Being the calm, safe, quiet space does not mean you become this emotional punching bag for your kids. It does not mean your child gets to slam things, snap at you, insult people, scare siblings, throw their backpack, or take the whole day out on everyone else while you sit there like a saintly throw pillow. No. You as a parent are allowed to have boundaries. You are allowed to protect your body, your feelings, and you're allowed to say this to your kid. You're allowed to have the feelings you have. You are not allowed to take them out on me. That line is important because we're not trying to raise kids who never have hard feelings. We're trying to raise kids who learn what to do with hard feelings. Co-regulation is not anything goes. It's warmth, structure, and support while the child is building the skill. Warmth and structure. Not warmth instead of structure, not structure without warmth, both. So in the car, it could sound like this. I can see this day was a lot for you. I'm going to use fewer words or wait to ask you about it. And also, you can say this. I won't let you scream at me. You can be quiet. You can say to me, no questions. You can squeeze your stuffed animal. You can stomp your feet when we get home, but you cannot take it out on me. That's the middle lane. We're not interrogating. We're not absorbing everything they throw at us. We are supporting the nervous system and holding the line. Here's another way to say it. Fewer words, follow up later. Now, the follow up still matters. Repair still matters. Accountability still matters. But in the hot moment, your child may need a boundary that is short, clear, and calm enough to actually be heard. So that is the limit piece of land, limit, later. Land does not mean anything goes. Limit does not mean lecture them into submission. It means I will help your body calm down and I will not let you hurt people while that happens. Once we have warmth and structure in place, the next question is, what can they do instead? Here's the next piece. The middle of the meltdown is not the best time to teach the tool. It's the time to borrow the tool you already practice. This is where we sometimes accidentally set kids up to fail. We wait until they're already flooded, yelling, crying, shutting down, or refusing. And then we say, use your coping skills. Y'all, if the skill has not been practiced when they were calm, it's going to be really hard to access when their body is already in this fight, flight, or freeze mode. This is like handing somebody a parachute after they have already jumped and saying, okay, quickly read the instructions manual. Like, what the heck? We want to practice the strategy before they need it. Not perfectly, not for 30 minutes, just one tiny rep. When everyone is calm, you might see something like this. Hey, babe, sometimes after school, your body feels really full. Let's pick one thing you can do when talking feels like it's too much. Then offer a few choices. You could squeeze your stuffed animal. You could push your hands into the wall. You could stomp your feet when we get inside. You could take a quiet break in your room. You could drink a glass of cold water. You could use a signal that means no questions yet. Now, for some kids, the tool might just be a phrase where they literally will say to you, no questions yet. I need quiet. Can I tell you later, Mom? For some kids, it's sensory. So doing things like squeezing, pushing, rocking, chewing, walking, drinking cold water, music, that works. For some kids, it's space. I'm going to my room for 10 minutes and then I'll come back. The key is that kids know what the options are before the big feelings hit. And you know what the option is too. That way, in the moment, you're not inventing a plan while your nervous system is trying not to lose it. And this is the later piece too. Later is when we practice. Later is when we repair. Later is when we ask what happened. Later is when we say, what could help next time? Not because the behavior doesn't matter, because learning lands better when the brain can actually receive it. Now let's zoom out a little bit. I'm going to use my school psychology lens because the meltdown is the headline and it's not the whole story. Okay, so here's a quick school psych in your back pocket. Look for the load before the explosion. The meltdown is the headline. It's not the whole story. If your child explodes after school, I'm not only looking at that explosion, I'm looking at the lead up. What was the transition? What happened earlier in the day? Was there a substitute, a test, a change in schedule, a fire drill, chaos in the lunchroom, a hard recess? Maybe there was a new camp group, or it was a long day of masking, a sensory heavy environment, a lot of waiting, a lot of hold it together. Maybe it was a field trip or something that was different than the normal routine. And then here's what I'm going to do. I'm looking at what happened right when the child got in the car or walked through the door. Was the first thing they heard a question? Maybe it was a correction from you, a demand, a reminder, like, get your backpack, don't forget your homework, why is your lunchbox full? Where's your water bottle? Did you talk to your teacher? Why are your shoes so muddy? Now, I say this, friends, with love because I'm also a parent and I know the backpack is right there looking offensive. But sometimes the first adult words after a long school day become the straw that breaks the nervous system. This is why I made the after school reset guide. Not because families need one more complicated system, but because those first 10 to 20 minutes need a simpler plan. We drop the load, fuel and hydrate, quiet landing, correct briefly, then transition to the next thing. The tiny win is not doing it perfectly. The tiny win is following the order. The order matters because after school is not the problem. It's the handoff. And we can make the handoff easier. Here's my school psych takeaway. Before you decide the meltdown came out of nowhere, ask your kid what they have been carrying. And that brings us into today's school translator minute, because this is exactly where parents hear one of the most frustrating school phrases. The school phrase for today is this: They were fine all day. They were great. You may hear this from a teacher, a camp counselor, a coach, or another adult when they're like, they were fine. They were great. And the translation is, that means your kid met expectations in that setting. It does not automatically mean they had capacity left when they got home. A teacher may be accurately reporting what they see. Your child may be quiet, compliant, hardworking, pleasant, helpful, and totally okay looking at school. And your home data still counts. Both can be true. They held it together at school. They fell apart at home. The school day may still be part of the pattern. Different settings ask different things from your kid's brain and body. The school setting might ask them to follow group instructions, tolerate noise, track the schedule, sit through transitions, manage peer dynamics, and keep their feelings tucked in. The home setting might ask them to shift gears, answer questions, unpack, tolerate sibling noise, start their homework, which, nobody wants to do, get ready for practice, or be emotionally available. Those are different demands in different settings. So when you hear from school, they were fine all day, you can translate that as, okay, they met the expectations there. Now let's understand what that cost them and what support they need during the transition home. Fine at school does not mean fake at home. It means we need to understand the load. So what does this actually look like when we're not talking about theory and you're talking about the backpack in the hallway and that granola bar betrayal, right? I love that. Let's imagine the car pickup and you say, how was your day? And your kid says, fine. And you feel the urge to ask 12 follow-up questions. Instead, I want you to try this. I'm so glad to see you. I'd love to hear about your day when you're ready. Then stop. Let the quiet do some work. Now, this may feel physically impossible the first few times because your brain wants data, but your child may need quiet before they can give you the data. Another place we might see this is when they come in the door, and I like to call it the backpack drop. So your child walks in and drops the backpack in the hallway, and your first instinct is to say, hang up your backpack, please. And listen, that is not unreasonable. Backpacks don't belong in the middle of the floor forever. But if your child is already a little crispy, that correction may be the match that lights the fire. So you might choose to let the backpack wait for 10 minutes. Not forever, 10 minutes. Drop the load. Then transition to the next thing. So let's talk about this when we do the wrong snack. Let's say today you brought the granola bar. And yesterday, the granola bar was acceptable, it was delightful. And today, for your kid, it feels like a personal attack. And your child says to you, I hate those. Instead of launching into the gratitude lecture, just pause. Because the granola bar may not be the issue. The granola bar may just be where the day cracked open. You can say to your kid, I hear you wanted something different. This is what I have right now. You can eat it or wait until we get home. Short, kind, clear. Next up is the homework ambush. You might say something like this. Remember, you have math tonight, and your child melts down before the folder even opens. That doesn't mean the homework disappears. It just might mean homework needs a transition, not an ambush. So instead, you might say to your kid, first, we're going to have a snack and a reset, and then we'll tackle the next thing. Siblings can be a place, too, where I think kids can get a little spicy. So let's say your kid gets in the car, and their sibling makes one normal sibling noise, and suddenly there's yelling in the backseat. And this is where you may need a boundary. I won't let you yell in their face. You can be mad. You can look out the window. You can say, I need quiet, but you cannot take it out on them. Again, we're using warmth and structure. Land, limit, later. And just so we're clear, this will not make every afternoon peaceful. Better may look like the meltdown is shorter, or your kid recovers faster, or you need fewer words, or homework starts with slightly less drama, or the afternoon feels a little less sharp. We're looking for progress, not a Disney transformation. Underneath those little moments, the behavior may be communicating something your child does not have words for yet. Let's translate what your kid's behavior might be saying. The slam door might be saying, I used up all of my polite. The dead face fine that they give you might be saying, I don't have words for this yet. The snack complaint might be saying, my body is low and I need fuel, but I'm not going to say that beautifully. The snap might be, one more demand right now feels impossible. The silence might be, I need you close, but not loud. The refusal might be saying, I need a bridge from school mode to home mode. The meltdown might be saying, I held it together and now I can't. This doesn't mean every behavior is okay. It means behavior is information. And when we can hear the need underneath the behavior, we as parents and caregivers can respond more effectively. Not perfectly, more effectively. So instead of what is wrong with you, we can move toward what is going on for you. And also, what boundary do I need to hold here? That's the work. So let's give you some words for the moments when your child does not have theirs. Here are a few parent scripts you can borrow from me. Script number 1, when they first get in the car. Hey, I love you. I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to hear about your day when you're ready. Or, I'm so glad to see you. I've got you for the rest of the day. Then stop. Let the quiet do the work. Script number 2, when your kid feels overwhelmed. You can say, I can see this day was a lot. You don't have to tell me about it yet. Or, no questions right now. First snack, water, and quiet. Script number 3, when they are rude or a little snappy. You're allowed to have the feelings you have. You're not allowed to take them out on me. Or, I'm here to help. I won't stay in a conversation with you when I'm being yelled at. We can try again in a few minutes. Here's what you can say when you need a parent break. You might say this to your kid. I'm feeling myself get activated right now. I'm going to take a minute so I can come back calmer and talk to you. That is not you abandoning your child. That is you modeling self-regulation. Your nervous system belongs in the plan too. This is his final script. You can use this later after everyone's regulated. You might say, that got really big earlier. I'm not mad that you had feelings. I do want to talk about what happened and what we can do next time. Or you might say, you are not in trouble for having a hard time. We do need to repair how you spoke to me. That last one matters because the goal is not to skip repair. The goal is to wait until repair can actually land. Now, please don't try to use all these scripts like this week. This is how we accidentally turn support into homework for parents. Let's make this smaller and talk tiny wins. Remember, pick one is enough. Let's make this doable, not a total family overhaul, not a laminated system that requires a trip to 3 different stores and a level of executive functioning none of us currently have. Me too, friends. Just tiny wins. All right. Tiny win number 1. Don't lead with questions. For 1 week, try not opening with, how was your day? Instead, say, hey, I love you. I'm so glad you're here. I'd love to hear about your day when you're ready. That is connection without demand. Tiny win number 2. Teach one safe, big feeling strategy. Pick one strategy your child can use when their body feels full. Squeeze a stuffed animal, push hands against a wall, stomp their feet, take a quiet break. Use a no questions yet signal, just one. Tiny win number 3. Practice the tool when everyone is calm. Try one tiny practice rep outside the meltdown. You might say, let's practice what you can say when you get in the car and don't want questions. Then practice. No questions yet. That's it. 1 rep counts. Tiny win number 4. Give yourself permission to take a break. When you feel yourself as a parent getting heated, try, I'm feeling myself getting upset, or I feel myself having big feelings. I'm going to take a minute so I can come back calmer. This is a parent tiny win. Like I've said, your nervous system belongs in the plan too. Tiny win number 5. Follow the reset order. Use the order from the after-school reset guide. Drop the load, fuel and hydrate, quiet landing, connect briefly, transition to the next thing. The win is not perfection. The win is following the order. Remember, pick one is enough. Before you go, 3 favors. First, leave a review if this podcast is helping you feel less alone and more equipped in the messy middle of parenting a big feeling kiddo. Second, share this episode with a friend whose kid holds it together all day and then falls apart by 4 o'clock. And you know the friend. Send it with start here. Third, grab the free after-school reset guide in the show notes. It gives you a simple reset routine, scripts to borrow, and a build your own plan for those first few minutes after school when everyone's nervous system is a little on the crispy side. And if this episode made you think, ooh, this is my house after school, come find me at Instagram and connect. We're building a community so we all feel a little less alone. Now let's land this the same way we want our kids to land after school, with fewer words, more clarity, and one next step. So if your kid gets in the car, closes the door a little too hard, flicks the seatbelt like it personally offended them, seriously, and gives you that dead face fine, I want you to remember this. The meltdown is not the meeting friend. That fine is not always a verdict about you and your parenting. Sometimes it's the sound of a full brain, an empty tank, a big transition, and a kid who needs a few minutes to land before they can give you their story. This does not mean you ignore the slammed door, absorb the sharp tone, or let the backpack live in the hallway forever. It means we choose the order. First, we lower the demand, then we help the body settle, and then we come back to the words, the boundary, the repair, the homework folder, or the next step, land, limit, later. And the next time you sit at that tiny round table in that tiny chair, remember, schools have expertise, and you are the expert on your child. Your insight is not extra, it's essential. You're not behind, you're building a partnership, and you're building skills, yours and theirs, one small, doable step at a time. Until next time, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with me on Psych to Parent. I'm Dr. Amy, your not-so-typical school psychologist, and I'm genuinely glad you're here doing this work instead of quietly white-knuckling it and blaming yourself. Your tiny win from today's episode is simple. Do not overhaul your entire parenting style. Pick one idea, one sentence, or one tiny shift and try it in a low-stakes moment this week. Then notice what changes, even if it is just by 1%. If you want more support, head over to psychtoparent.com. You'll find show notes, simple scripts, and parent-friendly guides that go with these episodes. While you're there, make sure you join the Tiny Wins mailing list so you get weekly brain-based tips, real-life examples from my work with families, and first dibs on new workshops and resources. It's the easiest way for us to stay connected beyond the podcast. If this podcast was helpful, it really does matter when you tap follow or subscribe. Leave a quick review or text it to a friend who is parenting a big-feeling, big-hearted kid too. This podcast is for education and encouragement. It is not therapy, and it's not a substitute for individualized care. If you're worried about your child or yourself, please reach out to a trusted professional in your area. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are building something new, one tiny win at a time. I'll see you in the next episode, probably with a cold coffee in hand, cheering you on.